this is our first in-person comp. The open, quarterfinals, everything leading up to this was online, and your competition was online as well. So you don't really know how you stack up against everyone. So this was the opportunity to share the competition floor. You have every heat, 10 lanes, and you're sharing that space with everyone. So one thing that I was really curious about, especially with myself, because I've never been in a semifinals either. And I've been really curious about what's it like to be with these other teams, especially because, you know, I came late to the game as a member of CSTL, and I wasn't really sure how much warm practice was sufficient for us to get, you know, to show well up on the competition floor. So as a competitor and as a coach, what's it like to execute in your lane with all these different things in mind? You know, seeing that if you're in the middle lane, or if you're in the outside lane, seeing how other people are competing, how fast they're going through their reps. You know, if it's a long AMRAP, some people going out too slow in the beginning or too fast in the beginning. How do you balance that, you know, in a competition stage? So for example, one I'd like to ask you, Ant, about is there was an early event with with an assault bike, legless rope climb, and box jump overs. And in the first 2 rounds of it, because it was 7 rounds, you were probably on the back half of the heat. And then by the end, you caught up basically to everyone. So can you talk me through how you're able to kind of stick with your game plan and your execution with the thrill of competition in mind?
Yeah, I think I think everyone talks about pacing and, you know, staying in your own lane and being aware of your own pacing, and I think that comes down to a lot of experience. Knowing yourself as an athlete, knowing your capabilities, know when you can push, know when you might have to throttle back on things. But I also think it massively helps when you're in the final heat and you can watch athletes before you either succeed or crash and burn with certain strategies. Sometimes you just don't know. Like, you know, maybe you've done all the, you know, especially for us in week 1, you've done all the prep that you think you can do, and you're like, oh shit, I actually never tried to push the Echo bike harder because I thought it would blow me up on this or that, you know. So then you can see people, they kind of try it, and then, you know, at that, the couple minutes before you step on the floor, it's like you can manipulate your strategy a little bit, but again, it depends on how confident you are in your own ability. So I think that's something that is very important to be able to do. And again, the more times you can do that and the more times you expose yourself to it, the better you become at it. Also, that comes with, you know, having, you know, for me, I have Ed in my corner, and I can maybe bounce ideas off. Maybe, you know, we spoke about like how to turn off the box when we're doing the step downs. There's a high step down, how to do the transitions, where we should possibly push. And I think, you know, immediately after the workout, we identified that I probably could have pushed the bike a bit harder to maybe gain a bit more time and finish maybe 1 spot higher. But no, I think when you're in that situation, it is very easy to get overawed by people starting off fast. You know, like you said, I was the last guy off the very first bike. But I also understood my own capability on the legless rope climb. Didn't think I'd be the best box jumper out there. But a lot of people did end up losing time, and I think I stayed consistent on it. But yeah, the legless rope climb allowed me to catch up to people, and because I didn't end myself on the first bike, my bike also stayed consistent. So actually reflecting back on it, I could have had a better time by actually pushing faster on the bike, not a sprint like some of the guys did to start. But I guess to answer the question, is knowing your own limits, and pushing those limits. So, you know, I think some people sometimes just go in blind and just will like send that bike to start just to get a head start. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense when it's in a 7-rounder, for example.
Yeah, I was gonna just say that I think watching Ant this year, I think this was the best I've seen you like stick to a strategy from the start. I think like in previous years, not so recently, but probably like in the first 5-6 years of regionals, Ant would probably be one of the athletes who went out quite hot and then would start dropping off quite a lot. And so it was really cool to see. I mean, the 2 workouts that really jumped to mind are event 1, which was the run and the clean and jerks. Yeah, he just set off a very consistent pace, and like in Asia, the top heat has a tendency of going really fast. There's a lot of big powerful guys, so if there's anything which typically starts on an erg or a single like a monostructural modality type thing, it's always a really fast start. But I saw Ant actually really stick to a pretty smooth pace. Started probably like, because you had the advantage of kind of starting in that lane where you went straight onto the track. kind of started like 7th-ish, hung out there for a few rounds, but I could just tell watching, because I'm always looking at the body language of other athletes. And even though like his position, he wasn't moving up, I could see looking at his face and his body language on the run versus like the 3 or 4 guys ahead of him and looking at their body language on the run, I knew that he was going to make a move in the next 1 to 2 rounds. So rounds like 3 or 4, he would start moving up.
Yeah.
And it's tempting to want to sprint because there's people like making aggressive overtakes on those runs, and it's easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
Or even see someone just a bit ahead of you and kind of like, you just naturally get pulled sometimes to that person. I think you stayed really well in your lane, and then it was really like round 4, like people just started dropping off and you were able just to hold on to pace and actually finish quite strong. So that was really cool. And then the one that you said on the rope climb workout, you were last off the bike by quite a way.
Yeah.
And then just very slowly, people just one by one, people would just drop off each round.
Right.
And your pace just stayed pretty much exactly the same, if not faster. But I was just going to say one thing on the whole like staying in your lane thing. It was really different for me as a coach, depending on which athlete I was dealing with.
I see.
So when I was working with Ant, knowing that Ant has the ability to be taking a top 2 spot, right? He's proven it in the past, and I know he 100% is fit enough to do it. With him in the warm-up areas, when we talk about strategy, if there was something that we both saw, or I saw, or he saw in the earlier heats, then I would say to him, like, listen, I think you need to, I think like on the handstand walk workout, we were thinking maybe about braking. It was like, you're going to have to go on broken. You're just going to have to risk it. You can break and it's going to be safe. But if you want to finish high up in this workout, which you can, you're just going to have to push it, because everyone in the early heats has seen that already. Yeah. And your separator will probably be on the road because you're a good rower. Now, I probably wouldn't have said that to any other athlete, because for them, they're not pushing, a top spot, and there's less on the line, I guess, for them. For them, it's like first experience. It's like, it's much better for most people, not play it safe, but like, what your capacity is, or, when you're a newer athlete, you have less confidence in your strategy to know that you could give an extra 10% and still be okay. Yeah. Whereas I know that Ant knows that he can be okay given an extra 10%. Does that make sense?